my thoughts on meditation. Perhaps it'll help you to understand what happens when we meditate and how meditation can benefit us. So the first thing to understand is that we have different states of mind. So you can see here the unbalanced mind. We're moving from thoughts of cravings to aversions, from greed to fear, from passion to hate. So there's quite a movement of our emotions zipping up and down. Whereas if we have an equanimous mind, we don't have those strong feelings back and forth, and we can actually find that calm from within. And of course, we all know that the calm ocean will allow us to reflect the truth surrounding. So when we remain calm, we can see the truth. And the word equanimous, of course, is about objective observation. So it's basically seeing things as they are, not as we would like them to be. And equanimous also is a position of non-attachment. So we don't have an I or a me or a mine. It's nothing particularly personal about us. It's like a third-party observer looking at a situation or something that's happened. The next thing to understand is that our body has a psychosomatic reaction. So we have something happens outside of us. There's an event that happens, and all of our incoming comes through our senses, our five senses. So we see something, hear something, smell something, taste it, or touch it. And once we've had that sensory input, then our cognitive mind sorts that out and decides what is it. And the way that they decide, or the way that we decide what's happened or what something is through our perception of it, or our recognition, which is usually from what we've learned or what we've remembered. So our previous experiences go into our perception of whatever is happening to us now. Once we've had that recognition, then the brain stimulates a response in the body. So a physical somatic response occurs. Our breath increases or decreases. Our heart rate might be changed. We might find some muscular things. Our shoulders clench or our jaw clenches. Or we might have an endocrine reaction. In other words, the hormones are stimulated. So hormones like the stress hormones or the happiness hormones might be stimulated by whatever it is that we've recognized from that outside event. And then, of course, from there, then that creates the thought or the action that occurs. So we will either have a thought, a craving, or an aversion. So the cravings and aversions is, I like that thing, I like it a lot, or I don't like that thing, I want it to stop. There might be fear involved, there might be greed, love, hate, all those sorts of thoughts. And of course, whatever actions are stimulated by those responses. Oh, this is something I have to run away from, or this is something that I have to do as a result of this outside event. So the psycho part of it, what is it? This is our perception or our recognition. So it's about what we've previously known. And the story of the blind man and the elephant is a classic example of it. So here we have a whole bunch of blind men. They've all got a part of the elephant that they're touching to decide what it is. They can't see it. They're going by their previous experiences. So this one down here thinks it's a tree because it sort of it feels a bit like that tree. That's his leg. There's the trunk. It feels more like a snake. So this guy might be having an adverse reaction to the snake. His body might be trying to run away from the snake. And you can see that all of the different perceptions of the same object, depending on which way you look at it. The somatic response, it's our breath rate, our heart rate, our muscular reactions, and our endocrine system or hormones. So we have the strength of the response as well. So some responses are going to be quite light, as if they were written in water. So that's just going to disappear very quickly. Some responses are going to be a bit more intense, and they would be like something written in sand, but still something that can be washed away quite quickly. And then some responses are going to be more like a more intense sensation that's perhaps like chiseled in rock, and that's going to be more difficult to release. And so that's all of these things that happen in the body. The breathing rate increases, the heart rate, we get endorphins when we're happy, we get adrenaline or cortisol when we're stressed, and of course that muscular response that we all have to everything. You can just imagine when you have a sharp intake of breath or a clenching of the jaw. The sensations that we are stimulated in the body will then produce a reaction. So we might have those thoughts or those emotions of craving and aversion and fear and greed and love, or it might create us to do some kind of action, something we have to run away or we have to do something. Or maybe our brain just puts it on the to-do list. Yes, that's something I need to work on later. Sometimes our brain will stick that into let's keep that important. That's a memory we want to keep. And sometimes our brain will put that little treasure into the not sure place. So we've got the old kitchen drawer where everything you're not really sure where it really belongs. We're going to pop it into there. It might just stay in the inbox. We haven't really decided what to do with it, so it's just going to float around in there for a while. Or it might go completely into the storage cupboard because it's just something we don't really want to throw away, but we might need it for later, just to come in handy thing. And of course, if we have repetition of something, that's going to create a pattern. The more times that we do it, the more times that we expect that similar thing to occur. So we end up with creating all these patterns in our mind, all these thought patterns. And so, of course, patterns then create addictions. We've got the addiction to craving. We want more of something. The addiction to aversion. I want it to stop. For instance, pain. We're addicted to that idea that we want the pain to stop. And we are not actually addicted to the pain or to the thing that's happening. We're addicted to the response. So we're addicted to the flood of hormones that we get, that happiness hormone that we get in the brain when we're doing something pleasant. We're addicted to the somatic response in the body, i.e. the sensation in the body. When we have an addiction, it's about being addicted to the sensation of the somatic response. So to understand meditation, the process of meditation involves withdrawal of the senses. So we are practicing pratyahara, which is a yoga term for withdrawal of the senses or closing down the senses, limiting the amount of incoming. Then we look at focusing or concentration of our intention. This allows us to interrupt the patterns that we've previously created. And then we can obviously get some conscious behavior and conscious observation and awareness of what our responses are. So pratyahara is the withdrawal of the senses. So we're closing our eyes. We're in a quiet environment, preferably without too many strong smells. We're not eating anything or feeling anything with our physical touch. So all of that sensory input has stopped. We don't have anything to disturb us from the outside. So we've only got left now our cognitive thinking brain, the physical responses to whatever our brain is thinking, and then the actions and thoughts that result from that. So our meditation, if we just decide to close our eyes, that's not really good enough, because when we close our eyes, the brain then all of a sudden has nothing, no incoming. So what's going to happen when it doesn't have incoming? Well, the monkey mind starts up. We just start thinking about all sorts of things. We bring up memories. We have random thoughts. We go back to that to-do list. Oh, let's have a look at that again. Let's revisit. What should we be doing? We make up stories about all sorts of things that we might have been thinking about in our mind or remembering. And of course, then that's the time when the kitchen drawer gets cleaned out. We've got nothing else to do, so let's dump out the kitchen drawer and have a look in there. So our brain is still thinking and thinking and thinking, even though we've got our eyes closed and we've said, oh, I'm just going to meditate now. We need to give the brain something to do. Otherwise, it's just going to go around and around in this thought process and work its way through every memory is going to create that somatic response that's going to then create that craving, fear, aversion, greed, love, whatever. So we need to give that brain something to do in order to stop it from going through this process. So that's why we focus when we're meditating. We give the mind something to focus on. And usually we give the mind something to focus on, like the breath rate. Let's just think about what our breath is doing. Maybe we think about some muscular focus, like progressive muscle relaxation techniques that we can do when we're meditating. So usually we're going to the somatic level when we do meditation. So we want to stimulate the somatic response and make that stronger so that our somatic body is then driving the meditation process. So the brain is then taking its, cognitive function from the somatic response. By doing that, we can interrupt our previous behavior patterns. So our normal behavior pattern is we feel something happens to us from outside, so that gives us a sensation in the body, and then we follow that maze like little Pavlov's dogs, creating that automatic pattern that takes us to the end or the bone or whatever it is. So when we can interrupt that pattern, then that gives us the ability to bridge those gaps and actually look with more clarity at where the end, and try and figure that out rather than just automatically moving through the patterns. So we can stop the patterned reactions and respond with conscious awareness. And we all know that once we stop, take a few deep breaths and relax, then we respond much more clearly. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about the laws of nature, and the three that I'm sort of touching on here is, one of them is impermanence. The idea that wisdom is an embodied experience, and what freedom really is. So impermanence is basically nothing lasts forever, nothing is forever. All things will come and go, all things will rise up and pass away. Everything must pass eventually. And when we understand that concept, really understand that concept, then we can really start to move through some of our past experiences. So all of our sensations are going to come and go. None of those sensations that we feel are there permanently. Everything changes, even if it's a small amount. All those sensations will change from day to day, from minute to minute. So any addiction that we have to those sensations, which, remember, our cravings and aversions are to the sensations. They're not to the actual thing. We don't actually, that chocolate bar isn't something that is a tangible thing in our brain. It's the sensation we get from eating the chocolate that we're addicted to. So our sensation is impermanent. So it is pretty senseless to be attached to something that is not permanent, because eventually that thing is going to go away. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the wisdom of experience. So it's easy for us to listen to somebody or to read a book. And I like the example of sailing across an ocean. So you can read a story about somebody sailing across an ocean, or you can read how to sail books. You can watch a movie about somebody sailing across the ocean. But until you actually get out there in the middle of the ocean and you're on that sailboat dealing with all the things you have to deal with, you're never going to actually experience and know the feeling of that experience until you're actually there. And then the last item that I wanted to talk about is freedom. So freedom is basically the equanimous mind. It's the idea that everything is as it is, and that we can observe all of the outside events that happen to us, everything that someone does or says to us, we can observe without as a impartial observer. So we don't create cravings, we don't create aversions, and we don't own these thoughts and feelings. So we have no attachment to our thoughts and feelings. Once we can achieve that equanimous mind, then we are free from our misery of cravings and aversions, our desires, and our strong opinions. And so then we can understand that happiness is not reliant on the outside experiences, that we can create happiness from within just by responding with clarity and calm to those situations around us. And meditation offers the techniques to understand and practice equanimity, and gaining mastery over the mind is the goal of meditation and the goal of yoga. And by practicing these techniques, you can achieve true happiness. Thank you.